In Joseon, the day breaks before the sun fully rises far earlier than most would wish. Yet, for those bound by discipline and the pursuit of strength, the early hour is welcomed. Outside, men push their bodies through precise stretches, moving with silent resolve. From inside a nearby carriage, light laughter breaks the calm. A man sits there smiling, thinking that mornings seem to start even earlier these days. Stepping out, he walks toward a building. Through the wooden lattice walls, he can see the shadows of men practicing, their movements sharp and precise. He slows his pace, listening to the steady rhythm of bodies in motion, the sound of discipline built through repetition. A small smile appears on his face. In front of the building, palace guards are also exercising, lifting weights while standing watch. One notices the man approaching and quickly recognizes him as the Grand Prince. The guard asks if he has come for his morning training. The prince nods, and the guard signals for the doors to be opened. Inside, the hall is alive with energy. Men work out with weights, encouraging each other between sets. Off to the side, two men chat during their break. One laughs, saying the other looks completely different after losing so much weight. Jokingly, he asks if he has been skipping his training sessions. The friend fires back with playful sarcasm, telling him to focus on his own workouts since he clearly needs them. Soon, both men are flexing and laughing, turning the exchange into a friendly contest. The mood stays light, but the commitment in their eyes is unmistakable. Just then, something else draws the Grand Prince's attention: a wooden treadmill, worn smooth from constant use. On it runs an older man, drenched in sweat and muttering about how slowly an hour can pass. This is none other than Sejong, the king of Joseon and the Grand Prince's father. His determination never wavers, even if the minutes feel long. From another corner comes the sound of heavy, steady grunts. The source is Mujong, Sejong's first son, and the Grand Prince's older brother. His training is relentless, every movement sharp, every repetition a battle against his own limits. The air in the hall is charged with energy. All around, the men of Joseon push through the strain of their routines. Even when fatigue calls them to stop, they press on, fueled by the will to grow stronger, defend their land, and face life with courage. Watching it all, the Grand Prince feels a deep surge of pride. These are not just subjects, they are warriors in the making, bound by grit and honor. And so, the story begins. Choi Young-jik was an ordinary young man from the Republic of Korea, never imagining he would one day find himself in another world. Fitness had always been his passion. He earned a first-grade certification in lifestyle sports instruction and studied food and nutrition at university, fascinated by how the body works and how to make it stronger. His first real dive into bodybuilding came during mandatory military service. Life there was strict and demanding, but in that environment, he found his purpose in physical training. While others passed the time with routine duties, Young-jik pushed himself in the gym. The training room became more than just a space to work out. It became his personal refuge. When his service ended, he entered a state university to study history. Still, his dedication to fitness never wavered. Between lectures, he lifted weights, tracked his nutrition, and stayed focused on his goals. His discipline paid off when he finally earned his first-grade fitness certification. To celebrate, he gathered his friends for a night out. They laughed, shared drinks, and toasted to his achievement. By the time Young-jik got home, he was exhausted but happy. He grabbed a quick snack, sat in front of his computer, and began scrolling through YouTube. One video thumbnail caught his eye: a historical documentary about King Sejong of the Joseon dynasty. Intrigued, he clicked it. The narrator mentioned that Sejong lived a relatively short life, possibly due to poor lifestyle habits and lack of exercise. The comment stayed in Young-jik's mind. He leaned back, half tired but deep in thought. What if someone like me had been in Joseon? What if they'd had access to modern fitness knowledge? Could I have trained their soldiers, built a stronger army, maybe even changed history? The question circled in his head as the video played on. Sleep slowly overtook him, and before he could make it to bed, he drifted off right there in his chair. The morning begins with a voice outside, politely asking if the Grand Prince is awake. Young-jik stirs at the sound, letting out a groan. Out of habit, his hand reaches for his phone, but it isn't there. Slowly opening his eyes, he expects the familiar sight of his apartment walls. Yet the scene around him is entirely different. In the distance, a rooster's crow rings out, sharp and real. Blinking in confusion, he sits up, only to realize he's lying on a simple wooden floor in a traditional Korean house. Thick beams run across the ceiling, and unfamiliar scents linger in the air. Then he notices his body. The firm muscles he'd built over years of training are gone. In their place is a frail frame with a slight belly. His heart races. The voice outside calls again, urging him to get up. Determined to understand what's going on, Young-jik steps out into the courtyard. There, a man greets him warmly and asks if his cough has improved. Young-jik's eyes dart around. Everyone is dressed in hanbok, moving about in a setting straight from a historical drama. Turning to the man, he asks for his name. Yusuji, the man replies. The name stirs something in young Jik's memory. A thought flashes in his mind, and he asks if Yusuji's father is Yidu. The man nods, and with that, everything clicks. Yidu, King Sejong of Joseon, which means Yusuji is none other than the Grand Prince Suyang. The truth hits him like a wave. Somehow, Choi Young-jik has woken up in another era, inside another body, and with a royal title. The man who once dreamed of training warriors from the past has now become one himself. Suyang stands frozen, struggling to process the overwhelming realism of everything around him. This isn't a dream, and it's no illusion. The moment someone nearby addresses him as Grand Prince Ji Yang, the truth slams into him. He's no longer in his own time. Somehow he has been transported to the mid-15th century, deep into the Joseon dynasty. A rush of unease creeps in. He knows this period well, the politics, the events, and most of all, the towering figure of King Sejong, the fourth monarch of Joseon. The thought alone tightens the knot in his stomach. His fears are confirmed when a royal summons arrives. King Sejong himself has called for him, entrusting him with a special task. Stepping into the audience chamber, Suyang is immediately struck speechless. Before him stands the king, but not the Sejong he had read about in history books. This man is rounder, drenched in sweat and breathing heavily, a far cry from the scholarly, commanding figure recorded in the annals of history. Suyang quickly lowers his head to hide his surprise, but Sejong notices something. The young prince seems distracted, perhaps not fully alert or in tune with his duties. Uncertain of how to proceed, Suyang bows. The gesture seems to confuse Sejong, yet before the awkward silence can linger, Suyang speaks and realizes something startling. His words are no longer modern Korean. Without effort, his speech has shifted to the formal, precise language of the Joseon court. He apologizes for his lack of awareness, but Sejong only smiles, dismissing any fault. Instead, the king praises him for his wit and intelligence. Impressed by Suyang's promise, King Sejong entrusts him with an important mission to rewrite comprehensive reflections that would guide the kingdom's governance. It's a massive responsibility, one that requires a visit to the Hall of Worthies, the very heart of Joseon's scholarly world. Suyang sets out for the hall, knowing it's where the era's greatest thinkers and researchers gather. When he arrives, the sight stops him in his tracks. The hall is grand, far beyond anything he ever imagined he would enter, let alone contribute to. An escort at his side remarks that if Suyang can complete the rewrite, his name will be praised across the nation, and the people will hold him in even higher regard. Suyang waves off the flattery, saying that Grand Prince Anpyong's handwriting is far superior. The escort, assuming it's mere politeness, ignores his modesty. Soon, Suyang begins working through the old manuscripts, and to his surprise, he understands them perfectly. The written and spoken language of this time feels natural to him, as though he's lived here all his life. While examining one particular text, he notices the characters are unusually large. A thought strikes him. Perhaps King Sejong has trouble with his vision. Drawing from his background as a sports instructor in his past life, Suyang starts piecing together the king's condition. The excessive sweating, shortness of breath, and heavy build all point to second-degree obesity. Combine that with poor eyesight, and the signs become clear severe diabetes. In modern times, it could be treated, but here, in the 15th century, it's almost certainly a death sentence. And Suyang knows the history well. King Sejong's days are numbered, and soon his elder son, Yi Hyang, will take the throne as King Moonjong. Unfortunately, Suyang also remembers what comes next in history. King Moonjong's reign will be brief, cut short by severe health problems. After him, the young Danjong will take the throne, only to be murdered in a palace coup that wipes out much of the royal bloodline. Suyang makes a silent promise to himself. He will not allow history to play out the same way. Just then, Yi Hyang, the eldest son of Sejong and heir to the throne, steps into the Hall of Worthies. His presence commands attention immediately. Spotting his younger brother, Yi Hyang remarks with mild surprise that Suyang is here at all, since he's usually more interested in outdoor pursuits like hunting. Suyang assumes his brother must be here for important business, but Yi Hyang explains he's only inspecting books meant for King Sejong. As he turns to leave, Suyang notices something troubling. The texts are printed in very small characters, which could strain the king's already weakened eyes. He stops Yi Hyang and suggests rewriting them in a larger script. This makes Yi Hyang pause and ask if Suyang already knows about their father's far-sightedness. Suyang admits he suspected it, but wasn't entirely certain. Yi Hyang studies him for a moment, then comments that his younger brother has changed. The arrogance he once carried is gone. When Suyang asks when Sejong's symptoms began, Yi Hyang reveals it's been about a year. He adds that the vision problems are more complicated than typical presbyopia and come with other troubling signs, but urges Suyang to keep the matter private. Once Yi Hyang departs, several scholars enter the hall. Sitting quietly, Suyang feels a dull ache at the back of his neck. neck. Recognizing the tension, he begins to stretch, tilting his head back, slowly rotating his neck to loosen the vertebrae, then leaning forward while pushing his shoulders back. The discomfort disappears instantly, and Su Yang marvels at how such simple movements can bring such quick relief. The scholars glance at Su Yang with puzzled expressions, unsure why he's moving his neck in such a strange way. In their minds, if someone felt discomfort, the obvious solution was to call for a massage therapist. It doesn't take long for Su Yang to realize the truth in this era. People have almost no understanding of stretching or muscle care. Explaining himself, he says he strained his neck while riding a horse, and the movements he just performed removed the pain instantly. He then introduces them to the idea of basic stretching for muscle health and offers to demonstrate. The scholars gather around as he guides them, tilt the head back, rotate slowly in different directions, then bring the head forward and push the shoulders back into proper alignment. Though hesitant at first, they follow his instructions and are astonished by the immediate relief. The following day, Yi Hyang returns to the Hall of Worthies and is surprised to find the scholars in high spirits, chatting excitedly about a method to relieve neck pain without a single massage. Word of this simple but effective routine spreads quickly across Joseon, soon earning the nickname the Stretching Whale. It's praised as a remarkable new way to release tension. But while others celebrate, Su Yang's mind is elsewhere. A concern has been nagging at him, and he's determined to act on it. He heads to the bustling local market, where goods of every kind are traded. His appearance among commoners draws curious looks, especially from one vendor, shocked to see a royal shopping in person. Su Yang explains that he's looking for oils, preferably sesame, but the vendor shakes his head, saying he only has beef tallow. Unfazed by the lack of sesame oil, Su Yang buys 5 maul of the cheapest beef tallow available, along with several medicinal roots. His companion can't help but ask what he plans to do with such items. Memories from his past life surface the historical Su Yang had died from dermatitis, a skin disease that, while treatable today, was seen as fatal and untreatable in this era. Determined to change that outcome, Su Yang gathers every ingredient needed to create a remedy. Once his shopping is done, he returns home and begins thinking through the process of mixing the medicine. As he's setting to work, a voice speaks from behind. It's his wife. She comments on how often he's been out in the streets lately, her concern clear in her tone. Just a few days ago, he seemed entirely focused on hunting, and now he's spending his time among commoners, collecting herbs and dabbling in medicine. She admits she can't understand this sudden change in him, wondering what's truly on his mind. Su Yang reassures her that everything he's doing stems from knowledge and ideas he's gained while working in the Hall of Worthies. Though she still appears doubtful, his resolve is unshaken. Armed with the knowledge from his past life, Su Yang knows he has a duty to reshape the Joseon dynasty from within. Whether it's by revising governance records, curing illnesses once thought fatal, or introducing new methods of health and wellness, he will act. His mission is clear: prevent the tragedies he knows are coming. Su Yang is caught off guard to realize he has a wife in this world, a fact that had completely slipped his mind until now. Forcing himself to stay calm, he hides the nerves beneath his smile as he answers her. He explains that he's searching for an item used to wash the body, something he once read about in a book, and something he considers essential in Joseon, where hygiene is poor and diseases spread easily. He recalls how, even in modern times, people can develop skin problems just from wearing sweaty, unwashed clothes after a workout. The thought of attempting bodybuilding in this era without proper soap makes the need feel urgent. Memories from his modern life surface. Back when he worked at a gym, he once made soap himself for a client, the building owner's grandmother, who distrusted store-bought products. The process had been rough and unpolished, but it worked. All it took was olive oil, water, and ash from burned rice straw, boiled together into a surprisingly effective cleanser. His wife listens but frowns, clearly puzzled. To her, oil would only make the skin dirtier, not cleaner. Su Yang, however, remains firm, recalling how books describe the method's ability to remove even deep-set stains and grime. She doesn't seem fully convinced. After a pause, she leaves with a vague comment that lingers in his mind. There's a faint edge to her tone enough to make him wonder if their relationship had been strained long before he arrived in this body. Still, he pushes the thought aside and focuses on his work. Foaming liquid, the first step toward bringing modern hygiene into Joseon. The scent drifts through the air, earthy, fresh, and lightly sweet from the sesame oil. Once the mixture cools and hardens, Su Yang cuts it into blocks and decides to test it. When he washes, he's pleased with the results. The soap cleans both his skin and clothes effectively, and while there are a few imperfections, the fragrance alone makes it feel like a success. For a brief moment, he even imagines mass-producing it, creating trade routes, and exporting it far beyond Joseon's borders. But his thoughts quickly turn to King Sejong. Even King Taejong, Sejong's father, couldn't convince him to care for his health. So what chance does Su Yang have? If he pushes too hard, it might look as if he's simply restless or trying to meddle, which could stir suspicion. In the worst case, Sejong might even banish banish him to remote islands like Murungdo or Tamra, known today as Ulung and Jeju. As he finishes washing, Su Yang makes up his mind. He won't tell Sejong to exercise directly. Instead, he'll lead by example. If he can transform his own body shedding fat, building muscle, perhaps the king will notice. Maybe even feel inspired to do the same. Of course, he's realistic. The body he has now is weak and far from the image of a trainer or role model. To change that, he starts designing a basic exercise plan with one bold goal: to one day lift 400 kilograms. But his vision doesn't stop there. He dreams of establishing bodybuilding as a legitimate discipline in this era. Sitting down to write, he begins crafting a manuscript on physical training, a guide to self-discipline and building strength. He titles it Conducting Oneself and Preparing the Body, a work he believes could change the future of Joseon by shaping stronger, more disciplined citizens who honor their families by developing the physical gifts they were born with. Outside, Su Yang begins his first official training session. He starts with pull-ups, immediately drawing puzzled stares from passers-by. Whispers ripple through the crowd, some questioning his sanity, others simply curious about the strange display. Su Yang ignores them. His focus is absolute. To his surprise, when he finishes the pull-ups, he feels no fatigue at all. He credits this unexpected stamina to the strong bloodline he's inherited from his grandfather, Yi Seonggye, the founder of the Joseon dynasty. Encouraged, he moves on to weighted arm extensions and curls, pushing through 29 reps. Dropping to the ground, he blasts out 82 push-ups before transitioning into the dragon flag, a challenging core move, repeating it until he loses count. Even with the softness around his waist, his body offers no resistance, and once again, he silently thanks his royal lineage. As he wraps up, a group of locals approaches, carrying several small iron dumbbells, the ones he had commissioned earlier. Pleased with their work, he rewards them with 80 kilograms of rice. The craftsmen leave astonished, murmuring among themselves. Some can't believe anyone would trade such a large amount of rice for lumps of metal. One man voices suspicion that the prince might be stockpiling weapons for a rebellion, while another brushes it off, reminding him not to meddle in royal affairs. Su Yang pays their chatter no mind. He's already into his next round, using the dumbbells for targeted exercises. If he's going to influence Joseon through strength and discipline, he must live it himself. But his efforts don't go unnoticed. From a distance, one of his wife's servants watches, then hurries back to report. The mistress listens with concern as the servant describes the prince's unusual behavior, his fixation on oil bathing, and the shocking amount of rice he gave away for chunks of iron. She also remarks on how he once spent his days hunting with friends, yet now barely speaks to her at all. The servant, emboldened, goes a step further, wondering aloud what her mistress must have done in a past life to deserve being ignored by her own husband. Annoyed, Su Yang's wife cuts her off, telling her to stop talking and leave. But once alone, her stern expression fades, replaced by quiet reflection. Memories resurface, strolling side by side with Su Yang through the palace gardens beneath blooming cherry blossoms. The day he handed her a branch as a token of his love, a gift that once made her heart soar. Now, looking at that very branch still kept after all this time, she takes it in her hands and snaps it gently in two. Each day it feels as though her husband drifts further away. That night, she decides to retire early, asking for privacy. As she prepares for bed, her eyes fall on a bar of the soap Su Yang had made, sitting beside the basin. Curious, she picks it up, running her fingers over its surface, inhaling the faint scent. How could this strange block possibly clean the body? Testing it for herself, she rubs it gently along her arms and shoulders. To her surprise, it lathers into thick, foamy bubbles, cleansing her skin more thoroughly than she expected. After finishing another intense workout, Su Yang heads to the bathhouse to wash away the sweat. As the warm water runs over him, he reflects on how far he's come since arriving in Joseon. Each day his training has grown tougher, and now he's already planning to increase the weight for his next session. Just as he begins rinsing off, the door opens. Turning his head, he's surprised to see his wife step inside. Calm and composed, she walks over without hesitation and begins speaking about the soap he made. She tells him it cleans her skin remarkably well, far better than anything she's used before. Su Yang feels a genuine rush of satisfaction, glad that his creation is not only effective, but also appreciated. Still, she raises one concern. The strong, oily scent from the sesame oil lingers too much, and she worries people might start thinking she's married to an oil merchant. Su Yang takes her words seriously. He had already considered replacing sesame oil with pork fat or beef tallow, but their high cost would make mass production nearly impossible. As he weighs his options, his wife offers a suggestion: camellia oil. She explains that it would not only give the soap a softer floral scent, but also cut production costs, making it practical for large-scale use. Su Yang is impressed, grateful for her insight. As she finishes speaking, her gaze briefly lingers on his now well-defined muscles. Realizing what she's looking at, she quickly turns away, her cheeks flushed red. Meanwhile, Su Yang's mind is already on his next step, expanding his project beyond the palace walls. His first destination, a coastal village where an old acquaintance resides. Years ago, during an autumn hunt, a man had served as a chaser for Su Yang, injuring himself while driving a deer out from the brush. Though time has passed, Su Yang still remembers the incident vividly, and now he intends to repay the man's efforts. Arriving at the coastal village, Su Yang meets him and makes an offer. He will send the man's family a steady supply of essentials every 2 weeks: 2 bags of rice, bottles of sesame oil, eggs, chicken, and other food items. In return, he asks only one favor: to report back every 2 weeks with the height and weight measurements of his children. Pleased with the arrangement, Su Yang decides to expand the idea. He will provide similar nutritional support to 20 other villages, each family receiving healthy food in exchange for growth data on their children. This is more than charity, it's an experiment. Su Yang wants to see firsthand how diets rich in protein, carbohydrates, and healthy fats affect children's physical growth and motor skills. With solid data, he hopes to prove that proper nutrition builds stronger, healthier bodies, evidence he plans to present to King Sejong in hopes of inspiring him to take better care of his own health. With the program set in motion, Su Yang heads to the village forge to meet with blacksmiths. From his sleeve, he produces a detailed blueprint, a training barbell complete with iron plates. Each disc should weigh 30 kilograms, with 4 on each side of the bar, pushing the total over 200 kilograms. The blacksmiths are stunned, even more so when Su Yang adds that in time, he will require additional plates to push the total weight past 300 kilograms. He stresses the importance of making the bar strong, stable, and able to handle extreme loads. Then, he reveals a second design, a shorter iron rod, 3 feet long, with a mounted plate. This, he explains, is for specialized training, and even with Joseon's technology, it can be crafted much like the metalwork used for older firearms. As he makes his way back to the royal estate, Su Yang reflects on how far his mission has already come, and how much further it still needs to go. The changes Su Yang has undergone in both body and mind still feel almost unreal. Walking alongside one of the blacksmiths, he takes a closer look at the man's build. Beneath his work clothes is a surprisingly muscular frame. When Su Yang comments on it, the man simply shrugs, saying people have always told him he has strong bones. Su Yang instantly sees potential. This could be the perfect candidate for his first student. Without hesitation, he offers to train the blacksmith, guiding him toward even greater physical strength. The man, touched and caught off guard, accepts immediately, struggling to find the right words to express his gratitude. Su Yang just nods, telling him there's no need for thanks. The next day, Su Yang visits his elder brother, Yi Hyang. The moment they meet, Yi Hyang notices the difference. Su Yang's physique is leaner, his complexion healthier. Curious, he asks what his younger brother has been doing to bring about such a change. Su Yang mentions a new hardening method he's been using, which sparks Yi Hyang's interest. From his bag, he pulls out a small wooden box and opens it to reveal one of his handmade soap bars. Handing it over, he invites Yi Hyang to try it. Intrigued, Yi Hyang agrees, and they head outside to a nearby water source. After washing his hands, Yi Hyang is surprised the soap removes dirt effortlessly, leaving his skin noticeably cleaner. He lifts his hands to his nose, commenting that while it works well, the oil scent might make it costly to produce on a larger scale. The remark reminds Su Yang of his wife's earlier suggestion. He shares the idea of switching to camellia oil instead, and Yi Hyang nods in agreement, saying it would be both cheaper and more practical. Back inside, Yi Hyang takes up a sheet of paper and carefully writes a note detailing the effectiveness of Su Yang's soap, a small step that could lead to something much bigger. Yi Hyang notes in writing how the soap removed even deeply embedded dirt from his hands, and how impressed he is with the results. He adds a recommendation. All government officials should begin washing their hands with soap twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening. While he admits the cost may seem high to some, he believes it's affordable enough for most people to purchase at least a small amount. Still, he knows the product's unfamiliarity will keep the public from buying it in bulk right away. His solution is to introduce it through the officials, first making them wash daily, then encouraging them to extend the practice to full-body bathing. By setting the example, they could normalize soap use across Joseon. But Yi Hyang sees more than just a public health reform. He spots an economic opportunity as well. He proposes that the soap be rolled out in limited quantities through private auctions, allowing for strategic taxation that could create a new revenue stream for the royal household. As Su Yang listens, he silently marvels at his brother's sharp insight, the way he can align state improvement with fiscal gain. In moments like this, Su Yang feels certain that Yi Hyang truly deserves his place as the future ruler of Joseon. Meanwhile, far from the royal estate, the blacksmith Su Yang commissioned work tirelessly in their forge. Sparks fly, hammers ring out, and molten iron takes shape into the custom bars and weights he designed. Their work is interrupted by the arrival of a man in a vivid red uniform. His tone is sharp, his presence commanding, as he demands to know whether these orders really came from Su Yang. The senior blacksmith answers carefully. Any deviation from a royal order, he reminds the others, would bring severe punishment upon them all. But one among them is restless, sweating, and uneasy. He urges the group to abandon the project entirely, insisting that everything made for Su Yang must be destroyed before it's too late. The others refuse. Most of the items are nearly finished, and Su Yang is due to collect them within days. The anxious blacksmith's voice rises. If money matters more to them than their lives, he warns, then they're welcome to keep working. The tension deepens when another man in red, wearing a wide-brimmed official's hat that shadows his face, speaks up. He quietly suggests that all this activity, the iron orders, the constant training, the strange new philosophies might point to something more dangerous. Perhaps, he says, Prince Su Yang is acting out of resentment after being passed over for the position of crown prince. Instead of courtly duties, he's now hoarding iron and building his strength. Signs, the man hints, of deeper ambitions. Yi Hyang, crown prince of Joseon, issues an official order. Every government official must use the soap created by Su Yang. The directive spreads quickly through the court. Before long, officials are talking among themselves, impressed by how easily the soap removes stains from their hands. They're especially surprised that it cleans away not only ink, but also oil, something they never thought possible. Many treat it like some kind of miraculous invention, and they're even more astonished to learn that it all came from Su Yang, a man not known for producing anything so useful to the people. Meanwhile, at his residence, Su Yang is in the middle of a workout. Lying on a bench, he pushes through 10 solid reps with a barbell weighing 120 kilograms. As he racks the weight, he can't help but marvel at his rapid muscle growth, almost as if the god of bodybuilding were watching over him. The blacksmith assisting him during the exercise praises his ability to handle such a heavy load. Su Yang smiles, thinking that even though this barbell is far from the standard gym equipment he knew in his past life, it's still extremely effective. It hadn't been easy to get here. In the beginning, the blacksmith struggled. The design was unfamiliar and delays were constant, but now the equipment is finally ready. Finishing his set, Su Yang hands the bar over to his assistant, telling him it's his turn. The man immediately protests, terrified the weight will crush him. Su Yang fixes him with a stern look and reminds him that the human body must constantly be developed and hardened. Reluctantly, the man agrees to try. As he struggles under the bar, Su Yang coaches him, explaining that he must engage both his upper and lower body to complete the lift. From a distance, Su Yang's wife watches with surprise. She had always considered him agile, but now his body radiates pure strength. Her servants whisper among themselves, comparing him to General Yi Jing-ok. Flattered, Su Yang takes the moment to tell them about the general's bravery and how, in his youth, Jing-ok rose to become one of the greatest military leaders in Joseon's history. As Su Yang continues speaking about General Yi Jing-ok's legendary exploits, his trainee struggles beneath the weight of the barbell, unable to hold it steady any longer. Suddenly, a loud, heavy pounding echoes from the direction of the main gate. The noise is so forceful that everyone in the room falls silent. Someone is hammering on the entrance with no restraint. Frowning, Su Yang heads toward the gate, wondering who would dare knock so aggressively. But before he can get there, a group of men dressed in dark clothing is already pushing inside. Among them is a familiar face, Captain Yichi, Su Yang's longtime rival. Su Yang's wife immediately voices her outrage that these men have barged into the residence of a prince, while her servant shrinks back in fear at their audacity. One of the intruders steps forward, stretches out his hand towards Su Yang's wife, and warns her to be quiet. That's all Su Yang needs to hear. He charges forward, shoving the man hard enough to send him sprawling to the ground. The stranger looks up in shock, clearly not expecting Su Yang to overpower him so easily. Su Yang's voice is sharp and cold as he warns him never to speak to her so carelessly again. The rest of the men bristle at the insult, hands going to their swords in preparation for a fight. But before they can act, Captain Yichi steps forward from behind them. With a smirk, he reminds Su Yang of their encounter at the previous year's hunting competition. Su Yang meets his gaze without flinching and warns that if Yichi harms anyone here, he will strike without hesitation. Only then does he demand to know why Captain Yichi has come. One of Yichi's men bristles with anger, clearly irritated by how casually Su Yang speaks, as if he doesn't grasp the seriousness of the accusations. Yichi steps forward, pointing to the iron rod in Su Yang's hands. He claims such a rod could be turned into 24 swords. His gaze sweeps over the rest of the equipment, his suspicion deepening as he calculates that the sheer amount of iron in Su Yang's possession could be forged into more than 400 weapons. The tension spikes when Yichi's soldiers drag forward a man who once went hunting with Su Yang, now gravely injured. To Yichi, this is proof that Su Yang is secretly rallying commoners, preparing to overthrow the royal family and claiming the throne for himself. Su Yang stays calm, dismissing the charges as baseless. He accuses Yichi of abusing his authority, storming into a royal residence based only on rumors and unverified assumptions. But Yichi scoffs, insisting he doesn't need proof. That instinct alone has always led him to uncover the truth. Su Yang presses back, asking what happens if those instincts are wrong, if all this is nothing but misunderstanding and gossip. Yichi refuses to consider the possibility, declaring that the interrogation will end only when the truth is forced from him. At that moment, Su Yang realizes that no amount of honesty will satisfy Yi Qi. The man seems determined to cast him as a villain, no matter the facts. Deep down, Su Yang reminds himself that he has done nothing wrong since inhabiting this body, but he cannot account for whatever the body's original owner may have done before his arrival. Then, the sound of footsteps cuts through the standoff. Yi Hyang steps into the courtyard, his expression a mix of concern and authority. Su Yang is briefly surprised to see his elder brother in person. Yi Hyang explains that troubling rumors have reached him, and he came to see the truth for himself. As he approaches, Yi Qi warns him to keep his distance, claiming that Su Yang cannot be trusted. Yi Hyang stops, turns his head slowly, and fixes Yi Qi with an icy glare. He tells him to choose his words carefully, especially when speaking about someone who is still his younger brother by blood. In their society, Yi Hyang points out, it's not unusual for relatives to use wealth for personal means without breaking the law. Turning to Su Yang, he demands an explanation for the creation of the iron devices. His tone hardens. While family loyalty is important, betrayal cannot be ignored, and neither can the sin of slandering a sibling without cause. The courtyard falls silent as Yi Hyang locks eyes with Yi Qi, the cold glint in his gaze making it clear. Any further disrespect will not be tolerated. Su Yang steps forward, his voice steady, telling Yi Hyang that it's fortunate he came, because there is something important he's been meaning to explain. Without delay, he instructs his disciple to fetch the book he's been working on, a manuscript that has taken much of his time and focus in recent days. Within minutes, the disciple returns, placing the text in Su Yang's hands. Su Yang passes it to Yi Hyang, explaining that both the book and his intense physical training are part of a plan aimed at something far greater than personal strength. Yi Hyang opens it with curiosity. The very first page speaks about caring for one's body as an act of filial piety, a principle that catches his interest but still leaves him puzzled. He cannot yet see how this philosophy connects to the piles of iron equipment surrounding them. Noticing his brother's confusion, Su Yang leans in and quietly says, "The real explanation cannot be shared here in public. It must be discussed in private." He then turns the topic toward their father, King Sejong, whose health, he warns, is worsening with each passing day. Su Yang explains that he suspects the problem is more than just age. He's noticed troubling symptoms, a flushed face, excessive sweating even in cool weather, signs that point toward a far more serious condition. Su Yang believes their father may be suffering from diabetes. The suggestion catches Yi Hyang slightly off guard. Su Yang continues, explaining that the illness could be the result of an excess of yang energy built up over a lifetime of rich food and complete lack of exercise. That imbalance, he adds, may already be affecting the king's eyesight. Yi Hyang shifts the conversation, asking why Su Yang has been supplying food to children in nearby villages. He wonders if this effort is somehow connected to their father's health. Su Yang confirms it is. Through these food distributions, he's noticed how quickly people can gain weight from just a few bowls of rice and eggs. This led him to start collecting data on the relationship between diet and exercise. His ultimate goal is to compile this evidence into a book that could convince King Sejong to adopt physical training as a key part of his life. Yi Hyang listens closely, and once he understands his brother's true intentions, he turns to Yi Qi and orders him to withdraw his soldiers. But Yi Qi refuses. He insists his men are responsible for monitoring Joseon's citizens and warns that letting someone ignore the authority of the king's guards would set a dangerous precedent. He gestures to the men behind him, a mix of experienced inspectors and new recruits learning to enforce the law, and says he cannot leave until he uncovers Su Yang's full intentions. Any attempt to force them out will have to go through him. Yi Qi draws his weapon, making it clear that personal ties shouldn't protect anyone from suspicion. Turning to Yi Hyang, he warns against letting family loyalty cloud judgment. Yi Hyang looks back at Su Yang with reluctant understanding. He tells him he can no longer shield him and urges him to explain, here and now, why he purchased and assembled so much iron equipment. Only full transparency will end the standoff peacefully. Su Yang agrees, but instead of just speaking, he decides to show them. He will prove the equipment's purpose through action. Once again, he explains that their father's illness is not just old age, but likely the result of an imbalance caused by excess yang energy. Physical training, he says, could help combat this over time. But Sejong dislikes exercise and avoids any strenuous activity. So, Su Yang's plan is to transform his own body, building such strength and presence that it could inspire the king, just as the legendary warrior Xiang Yu once inspired armies. Yi Hyang steps forward and tells Yi Qi that Su Yang is not gathering weapons for rebellion, but creating training tools for health and strength. Yi Qi remains skeptical, pointing out that the iron devices are heavier than even the palace cauldrons, far too heavy, in his mind, to be used for exercise. Realizing this is a matter of ignorance, Yi Hyang tells Su Yang to demonstrate. He explains to the crowd that once they see the equipment in action, the rumors will disappear. To drive the point home, he asks if anyone is willing to test their strength against Su Yang. one confident soldier steps forward, boasting that he has never been defeated in a contest of strength. He declares that if Su Yang fails to outmatch him, everyone will know the equipment is not for training. They prepare for a bench press challenge using the same heavy barbell. As the contest begins, Su Yang calmly explains that the exercise builds the arms, chest, and shoulders, though the soldier scoffs, convinced that only raw strength matters. When the soldier lifts the barbell, his smugness vanishes. The sheer weight crushes down on his arms and chest, far heavier than he imagined. Struggling, he forces out one shaky repetition before setting it down, gasping for breath. A nearby soldier laughs, turning to see if Su Yang can do any better. But the laughter dies instantly. Su Yang is already on his 9th repetition, moving smoothly and without any sign of fatigue. Still thinking he's ahead, the volunteer turns to Yi Hyang and asks if that's all Su Yang has. But the stunned faces of Yi Hyang, Yi Chi, and every soldier watching say it all. Su Yang's performance has completely overshadowed his challenger, erasing any doubt that the iron devices are meant for training, and silencing the accusations once and for all. The contest ends, and the verdict is undeniable: Su Yang's iron equipment is for training, not for war. Even the most skeptical soldiers are left speechless, recognizing that his strength is no ordinary feat. The volunteer, once proud of his undefeated record in the Inspector General's office, lowers his head in shame, humiliated by how easily he was bested. Su Yang, calm and collected, explains that in fitness, the number of repetitions depends on the training's purpose. The soldiers are stunned when he casually reveals he can lift up to 175 kilograms. The volunteer flinches at the number, frustration flashing across his face. Before tensions rise again, Yi Chi steps in, silencing the man and ordering a retreat, but not without warning Su Yang that suspicion still hangs over him and that he'll be watching closely. Su Yang smirks, replying that he intends to do the same. With that, Yi Chi departs with his men. Relief slowly replaces the tension in the courtyard, as Yi Hyang thanks Su Yang for preventing the situation from escalating. He promises to support him in finishing his book before leaving for the day. Su Yang reflects on how easily things could have gone wrong one misstep, and he might have been in a far darker place. Later, he seeks out his wife to apologize for not telling her his plans sooner. She admits, a bit embarrassed, that she regrets doubting his intentions. Just as he's about to continue, his legs buckle unexpectedly, and he stumbles, catching himself only by leaning on her. Her cheeks flush as she whispers that such behavior is hardly proper in broad daylight, drawing awkward glances from the servants. Su Yang regains his composure, only for her to tease that if he has such thoughts, they should go to their chambers instead, leaving him momentarily flustered. That evening, as the soldiers resume their patrol, the same volunteer approaches Yi Chi to apologize for failing to uphold the inspector's honor. Yi Chi waves it off, saying the outcome isn't important because he noticed something. Among Su Yang's training tools, there was one that resembled a Chong Tong, an early Korean cannon. This fuels Yi Chi's suspicion that Su Yang may be secretly working on a new form of artillery. He recalls last year's royal hunting competition, remembering Su Yang's ruthless precision like a beast born for battle, and finds it hard to reconcile that with his current health and fitness claims. That night, Yi Chi vows to keep watching until he uncovers the truth. 3 months pass quietly. Just as Su Yang settles into a routine, his wife approaches with unexpected news she's pregnant. The words hit him like a wave. She softly explains that the conception happened the very day Yi Chi and his soldiers left. His thoughts drift to his past life, to a night when he celebrated earning his certification with a friend who had refused gym workouts, citing fatherhood. Su Yang had told him that training transformed the body and the mind, but his friend laughed, reminding him that he was nearly 40 and still unmarried. Su Yang had joked that his only wives were his barbell and dumbbell. Never did he imagine that one day, in another world, he would hear the words that he was going to be a father. Overcome with joy, he lifts his wife into the air, spinning her gently as his laughter fills the courtyard. She, equally happy, expresses her desire to stay healthy for the baby and asks him to teach her some light exercises. He agrees, starting with gentle stretches so she won't tire. Yet beneath his happiness, worry brews. He knows childbirth in this era carries grave risks. Determined to protect her, he quickly sets to work building a distillation device, modeled after traditional soju containers, to create a disinfectant pure enough to sterilize medical tools. Once it's complete, he calls the local doctor, demonstrating the process. They pour soju into the container, channel it through a cooling tube, and collect the purified alcohol. After several trials, Su Yang produces a batch that meets his expectations. To confirm, he compares it to water on a balance scale, and the perfect equilibrium tells him it's ready. Both he and the doctor smile in satisfaction. In an age with little medical knowledge, this disinfectant could save lives. Time moves on, and when his child is born, the joy Su Yang feels eclipses anything from his past life. The memories of the modern world fade, replaced by the life he's built here. Inside the royal chambers, King Sejong addresses the court, praising Su Yang's contributions from the distribution of soap, which improved public hygiene and filled the treasury, to the invention of the disinfectant, which impressed court physicians. Su Yang bows humbly, but Sejong dismisses his modesty, awarding him 200 yangs of silver for his expenses. Yi Qi's face darkens at the announcement. Sejong continues, speaking warmly of Su Yang's newborn son, calling him a blessing to the royal family. He recalls how the princess recovered in just a week after childbirth, thanks to Su Yang's disinfectant, and decrees that the method be used for all mothers and newborns in Joseon. As Sejong looks at his son with pride, the court feels the shift. The once reckless prince has become a man of vision. But suddenly, the king's face pales. He grasps for support, his vision blurs, and weakness overtakes him. Gasps fill the hall as he stumbles from the throne and collapses to the floor with a heavy thud. Chaos erupts. Ministers call for the palace doctors, who rush forward as the chamber fills with shouts and hurried footsteps. That evening, Yi Hyang meets with Su Yang to deliver troubling news. Their father's health has taken another turn. Although King Sejong has regained consciousness, his condition is fragile. Yi Hyang explains that the king now suffers constant thirst and worsening eyesight, needing to hold books inches from his face to read. The palace doctors have been giving him a special healing decoction, but it's had no effect. Su Yang asks whether their father has reported seeing strange visual disturbances like floating specks or a white haze. He remembers his own grandfather describing those symptoms before his diabetes worsened. Yi Hyang shakes his head. The king has mentioned nothing unusual, only trouble seeing distant objects. Cautiously, Su Yang concludes the situation might not yet be critical, perhaps due to overwork and stress. Still, he knows that if things continue this way, the king could lose his sight within a year, just as the records from his past life predicted. Then, an idea sparks. His mother's birthday celebration in September is coming soon. It could be the perfect stage to make an impression on the king. Yi Hyang quickly understands Su Yang is planning something bold. Su Yang explains that his book outlines 3 main strength training movements: the squat, the bench press, and the deadlift. For the deadlift, he plans to lift a barbell from the ground to waist level, with an ambitious goal, 1,000 kilograms by the day of the feast. Yi Hyang is stunned. He recently challenged one of Joseon's strongest veterans to lift just 600 kilograms, and the man failed. But Su Yang calmly says he can already lift 900 and, with discipline, will reach 1,000 not just as a personal record, but as a show of strength and filial devotion to inspire the king. Yi Hyang promises to help. He praises Su Yang's manuscript, but warns much of it is too complex for the average person. He offers to revise it with him, urging Su Yang to improve his communication and teaching skills alongside his physical training. He also insists the book must reflect at least 13 Confucian classics, including moral precepts from the Ming dynasty. Su Yang has only studied the 5 classics, but he accepts the challenge, seeing it as a way to guide his father toward a healthier path. The brothers agree on their shared mission, and Su Yang gets to work immediately. For fat loss, he takes up hiking, while under Yi Hyang's guidance, he dives into the new texts. At first, the writings are dense and difficult, but remembering Yi Hyang mastered them in 2 weeks, Su Yang vows to do it in 1. He overhauls his diet: small portions of cabbage, cucumber, red tofu, and oatmeal. His wife is shocked he's willing to eat so plainly for so long, but he explains it's necessary to perform at his best. She apologizes for not realizing the scale of his ambition. When she remembers adding salt to his tofu, she feels guilty and orders the servants to redo the meal and ensure every dish from now on is checked and made with the freshest ingredients. From that day, Su Yang pushes harder, lifting heavier weights, climbing steeper trails with his disciple, and memorizing complex teachings between workouts. Finally, they reach the mountain's summit. Looking out over Joseon, Su Yang feels the weight of time and how far he's come. Soon, the queen's birthday arrives. The palace is filled with guests, entertainers, and royals. Performances bring joy to the queen, though King Sejong, hiding his worsening vision, can barely see them. Backstage, Su Yang readies himself for his final act. He asks Yi Hyang if anyone else knows of his plan. Yi Hyang admits he told the crown princess, who reacted with anger and disbelief at the idea of Su Yang lifting 300 kilograms in public. Yi Hyang urges him to stick to the plan, believing that if he succeeds, their mother might promote a healthier lifestyle throughout the palace. "You have to do this," Yi Hyang says. With a quiet nod, Su Yang steps away, preparing for the moment that will test not only his body, but his resolve and the truth of his teachings. This channel grows with you. Hit subscribe, like, share, and let's build it together.